So in other videos, we've talked about managing user processes. Let's talk about managing services, or daemons as they're called in Linux. So a daemon or a service is an application that's running in the background. Typically, it automatically starts up when the system comes up, and it provides some type of service to either the system or the rest of the network. So in current version of Ubuntu, that is done using the systemd toolset, which includes a tool called System. Let me get to the right window here. Systemctl. And if I just type Systemctl, it's going to show me all of the background services that are on. You'll notice here some of them are devices, some of them are services, some of them are sockets, some of them are targets. So all of this is stuff that's being managed as system processes. So Q is going to get me out of that. Now I can filter that down using the grep command. So I'm going to do systemctl, and I'm going to pipe that to grep, and I'm going to play with the OpenSSH server because, I can do that without blowing anything up on my system. So I grep that, and I find that I have an ssh.service. It's loaded, active, and running, and it's the OpenBSD secure shell server. Cool. There's actually a better way to look at this, and that is Systemctl Status SSH. And this is going to give me a little more information. So SSH service, it's OpenBSD. You'll see that it's loaded. And you'll see in parentheses lib system.d or systemd system ssh.service is enabled. The vendor preset is enabled. That means it's currently enabled, which means every time the system reboots, it's going to restart this service. Vendor preset means when I download it and set it up, the vendor, whoever wrote this, preset it to be enabled. Next line is going to show that it's active and running, and it's in green there, which really makes it stand out, which is convenient. We see the process that ID, the tasks, and then we see some events here. Okay, so this shows me my current status. I can also use systemctl to manage this. So let's say I want to stop it. So I'm going to sudo systemctl stop SSH. And now when I go to review my status, it's going to show that it's still loaded and it's still set to be enabled. So if I reboot, it will come back up. But currently it's inactive or dead. So let me go ahead and bring it back up. And this time I'm going to do without using sudo. So it's going to be systemctl start SSH. Now I didn't sudo it, and so this is, you can't do that. You're going to have to authenticate in order to start this. So you're going to have to give me root authentication. Well, my first account actually has that. Put in my password, authentication complete. And when I do my system status, there we go. We're up and running. All right, cool. Now, this will allow systemctl will allow me to stop, start, restart services, which is great. It'll also let me enable or disable. And that enable or disable has to do with does it come up automatically. So you'll notice that currently it's set to enable. So I'm going to sudo systemctl disable SSH. Let me spell system correctly. There we go. And now it goes through and does a bunch of things to see if we can disable it. And if I do a systemctl status SSH, we're going to see that it's still active and running, which is fine. We didn't stop it. But if you look at this loaded line, you'll notice all the way over to the end, it still says vendor preset is enabled. But if you come back just a little bit, it says loaded and then gives a path. Lib systemd system ssh.service is currently disabled, which means when I reboot the system, it's not going to come back up. So I can enable or disable here. Let me go ahead and re-enable this. So it's going to be sudo without a P systemctl enable SSH. And then once again display our status, and now at our loaded line it is re-enabled. Okay, so we're back to normal. Now Options with the Systemctl, common ones: stop, start, restart, enable, disable. We walked through a bunch of those. There's one more, and that is reload. Reload, not all services are going, or daemons are going to support reload. Some of them will. What it does is it reloads the configuration without taking the service down, which is great because it means if somebody is connected to that service or using that service, we don't disconnect them, but we can still update their configuration while they stay up, functioning and serving users. So that reload is a very, very useful, very powerful tool. Not available for every service, but for the ones that it is, it's very, very helpful. Okay, so that's how we're going to manage system processes or daemons in Ubuntu Server.